Eric Cartman is widely known as the most sadistic and narcissistic characters in all of animation. He's accumulated a huge tally of repulsive and evil deeds over the last couple of decades. Frankly, he's often considered one of the worst fictional people ever created. But believe it or not, Eric has also managed to do more than a few good deeds. And since everyone always talks about the evil in his heart, we thought we'd look at some of the decent things he's done. Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Eric Cartman's Best Moments.
Yeah, but the animation's all crappy.
For this list, we're going to cover times where Eric made the most positive impact on others, and times where the more humane side of his personality revealed itself. We're going to be ranking times where Eric displayed the best of himself through helping others and displaying his own inner strength. Number 5. Playing Cupid. This one was a hit and a miss. Most of the time when Eric's Cupid self comes out, it leads to some weird interactions between not only Eric and the Cupid, but between others around him. It was a way for Eric to display the more romantic half of his personality, even though his standards for himself and others are warped to a degree. Still, we wanted to mention it because Eric's behavior was far more tame than it normally is, when he was more focused on pairing people up. Though we disagree with this thinking about Token and Nicole being good for one another based on superficial factors, it was surprising to see Cartman not use his normal tricks when confronting Nicole about liking Kyle. Rather than snapping at Kyle right away, as Eric is normally seen doing, locking Kyle away as Eric had once done with Butters, or trying to make Nicole lose interest by making disgusting remarks about his supposed friend, he decides to use a different strategy. In this situation, Eric decides to simply lie and say that he and Kyle were already in a relationship, but just weren't out in the open, appealing to the fact that Nicole wouldn't try to steal someone away. It isn't that Eric hasn't lied before to get his way, but this was a much gentler tactic than he would typically use. Even when Nicole and Kyle go on their date, Cartman doesn't try to call in a threat to the game or use some other violent method. He opts instead to use the giant screens to claim that he and Kyle are a couple, in order to get Nicole to back off and go back to Token. It was a really conflicting episode, as were the ones to follow. The next time the Cupid returns to help another relationship, it's when Craig and Tweek are believed to be together. Eric thinks they suit one another and is surprisingly supportive, even being deluded into thinking their fighting is flirting, calling it cute, and teasing that they should just get a room. While he was clearly mistaking violence for affection, as expected from Cartman, it was nice to know that he did genuinely believe Craig and Tweek deserved happiness as a couple and supported them rather than berate them. Number 4. Helping Shelly get revenge. Stan's sister Shelly is a known bully towards her brother, though has pulled back from doing it as much in the more recent seasons. In one of the earlier episodes, she's entrusted to babysit Eric, being one of the few residents of South Park to not be intimidated by him. She invited her boyfriend over to spend some time with him away from her parents, and we quickly see why she wouldn't want him at her house. The guy Skylar was 22, and he breaks up with her after she refuses to have sex with him. Eric had originally planned to use a recording of their date as leverage to get Shelly fired as his babysitter, but seeing Shelly heartbroken at being dumped, Eric winds up being sympathetic for her and offers to help take the man down a few pegs. The two team up to go into Skylar's home, break his beloved guitar, and place the remains in a litter box, leaving the message that the man was now dubbed King Turd. Eric took the time to let Shelly know that she was better off without the man, and that he was scum anyway. This message is made all the more valuable when we see time and time again how much Eric struggles with seeing his mother date so many people so casually. The words may have directed at Shelly to get her to see her worth, but it was clearly something Eric had felt strongly about beforehand, about his own mother. Number 3. Helping cure AIDS. This, like many of Eric's other sweeter moments, is also a bitter one. In the episode Tonsil Trouble, Eric finds out that he was given tainted blood during his procedure to have his tonsils removed. Though Eric is given a lot of sympathy and attention, it doesn't soothe him the way it would under most circumstances. He quickly becomes offended about Kyle laughing at his predicament, and so purposely infects his friend. Kyle reacts like any normal human being, wanting to destroy everything Eric held dear for committing such an act. The threat of losing his Xbox leads Eric encouraging Kyle to go with him to see Magic Johnson about a cure. This trip does actually prove to be beneficial, to an extent. They find a cure for AIDS, being that one had to have enormous sums of money concentrated and injected directly into their bloodstream. It wasn't a cure that helped a lot of the people who needed it, and it wound up not being enough to keep Kyle from destroying Eric's Xbox, but it was an effort, and that's more than he usually gives. Number 2. Saving Kyle twice. Now, we know Eric has tried to take Kyle out more than a few times, such as in the previous listing, but we want to cover 2 times in particular where he showed how valuable Kyle's life really was to him. The first comes during the Imagination Land adventure. To longtime fans, it's well known what Eric was gunning for this entire time. He spent almost all of his time on screen demanding Kyle perform a certain act after Kyle lost a bet, but this wound up being derailed when Kyle was attacked. Man-Bear Pig coming from the portal to grab at him, and then the two being shocked violently when the officials forced the creature back into the portal. The attack left Kyle unresponsive and deemed dead by the people present. What follows is an emotional display, with Eric screaming and fleeing off his crown and robe to give Kyle chest compressions and demand they use the paddles again. Seeing a normally composed and manipulative Cartman crying and begging for his friend to keep fighting earned Eric a lot of compassion among viewers. The second time came when Kyle and his family moved to San Francisco, his father Gerald claiming the mountain town wasn't progressive enough for them. When a large cloud of smog threatened the lives of the people in the city, Eric drags Butters with him so Butters can help pull him back out. We see Eric burst into the new Broflovski home, find Kyle and Ike high on acid, and the screen cuts to black as Eric tries yelling for his friend to come too. When we see them all again, Kyle's family is unable to explain how they were able to escape, stating they woke up on the bus heading back to Colorado. Eric makes Butters keep quiet about the whole incident, clearly not wanting people to know he did in fact miss his friend. Number 1. Taking out Saddam. We had to place this one first as it's not only a classic moment, but wound up being one of Eric's shining achievements, helping a lot of people. This is all the result of the first film, with the people of South Park upset by the new Terrence and Phillip movie and how much toilet humor and crass language was in it. Parents soon began trying to find ways to curb their children from mimicking the behavior, and Eric was the one selected to test a new V-chip, meant to shock him every time he uttered an obscenity. This was valuable later on when confronting Satan and his lover Saddam as they rose to try and take over the earth. Eric retaliates, cursing, and winds up shocking the former terrorist leader violently, giving him the idea to let loose and use his newfound ability to torment the man. Eric winds up not being the one to defeat him, with Saddam even appearing in a later episode. But it did buy everyone time to fight back against the new threat, and even helped Satan to reflect on his life choices, realizing that he didn't need Saddam holding him back. And you have to appreciate how Eric thought Barbra Streisand was a dirty term. But what do you think? What are Eric Cartman's best moments in South Park? Let us know in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist. Be sure to check out our South Park Good to Evil video where we break down the morality of all the characters. But most importantly, stay wicked.